Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-hosts Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. Good morning, coaches. This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain. That is Coach Kenny Simpson. We are joined today by Coach Tony Cotton. Coach, man, welcome to the show. We appreciate you jumping on. I know it's early in the morning here as we are splitting Christmas and New Year's Day. So good Tuesday morning. So I'm glad you could make some availability for us today. Real quick, man, why don't you go and give us an introduction so people know who they're talking with today?
And I appreciate that. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Coach Simpson. Tony Cotton here. I'm the offensive coordinator, wide receivers coach out in Phoenix, Arizona at Brophy College Prep. We're a 6A school out in Phoenix. Sit kind of right in the center of the city, right? I grew up in Kellyville, Oklahoma, where I played high school football, basketball. I ran a little track. Left there and went to Langston University. Try to make my mark in the NAIA football world. Some of those coaches the feedback I got is like, man, how's this guy still playing? It's like, hey, man, they told me I had eligibility. I'm going to keep lacing up these keys.
Keep showing up, right?
Exactly. So I did that. And then I GA'd for a year at Langston. And then my girlfriend, who's my wife now, she decided she wanted to go to law school. So and we packed up and moved to Phoenix. And we set up shop. I started coaching ball out there. As soon as I got there in 2015, I coached at a small high school, Phoenix Christian. I went to Glendale Community College. RIP to the junior college football programs in the state of Arizona, man. They got rid of them back in, I think it was 2017 or 2018. So that was a big hit that we had to deal with. But our head coach or our offensive line coach at Glendale got the head coaching job at Brophy, and he brought me over to be his receivers coach. So I just finished my 7th season there. The third is the offensive coordinator. So it's been a fun ride, man. Full of ups and downs, full of a bunch of wins. Every time somebody's like, oh, man, we beat such and such. Hey, man, I don't care who you beat. Wins are hard to come by. So let's just enjoy every one of them. You know what I mean? So
hardest thing to do in football, right, is win football games.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Yeah, man, thanks for reaching out. I know, we talked a little bit online, and I appreciate the interest in coming on and just sharing your story a little bit and talking some ball with us today. A little close for home. My wife actually graduated from the Luuuuuuu. She went to PT school there, so we have a little connection there as well to Langston.
There we go.
So I saw that. I had to make sure it was the same school. That's right. Yeah, if she was here, she would throw the L's up too. She loves it. She thinks
that's awesome. When did she graduate from PT school out there?
Say again.
When did she graduate from PT school? Do you know?
I was in the desert then, so that would have been 2016-17 timeline, I believe. So,
I had some classmates that they graduated before that, like 2012, 2013, something like that. But yeah, man. One of them, he's actually I don't want to say the head of training, but he's one of the trainers for the Portland Trailblazers right now. So he's from Oklahoma.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what she wants so bad to get in. We're Boston people. We love Boston. We don't live there, but we love it. And she's like wanted the Red Sox to be the gig. That's our future, I think.
There we go.
See.
There we go.
Kenny, man, we got a little cold snap going on here, so everything's a little cooler than it was just a couple days ago. Talk to us about, this week. I know you guys have finally gotten through kind of award season and all that, and then hit us with our quote of the week, too.
Sure. Yeah, no, this week's probably like everybody. I don't even know what day of the week it is. Between Christmas and New Year's, if you teach and coach, Coach, you talked about your kids off camera. You must have little ones. They're up going to get pancakes. Mine, I don't think wake up till 10:30. I've got, you go through phases. I remember when I was y'all's age and had little ones and they'd wake up early and go back to bed. And now I got to go wake them up at 10:30 for basketball practice. And the other one, if he's going to go, he worked out last night. He went to go work out last night, like at 11 o'clock at night. I was like, my goodness gracious, your life just kind of changes. But anyway, Daniel, for me, and I know we're kind of working on a co-book together, kind of, and that's what I do. During my off season is I research and look up different things, and so I've been actually working on a ton of different books. So excited about that. Got one coming out. It may be out by the time this comes out. That 0-10 to 10-0 book is coming out. So that's what I've been doing because, as you can tell, I'm wearing a heated vest inside so I don't deal with cold. A lot of y'all go hunt and go do stuff outside. I sit by the fire and have a football game on and research and look at football. And, Coach, I told Coach off camera, I did a clinic in Phoenix. The way I set up my clinic schedule, when I go places, I'm going to San Diego. I usually go to Phoenix. I go to Florida during January and February. And then Daniel knows I love Boston, but I try to wait till March or April to kind of go that direction. Anyway, quarter of the week coming from Team Themes Volume 5, and then we'll get to what y'all came here to listen to Coach. But I thought it was probably appropriate for Christmas season. It says, gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. The more you express gratitude for what you have, the more likely you will have even more to express gratitude for. I thought that kind of fit Christmas season, a chance for us to kind of get together. This is the time of year where all coaches have either mourned their season or celebrated their season, and they're kind of looking forward to what's new. New Year's coming up, all the resolutions, all the different things. And, what I'd warn you to do is make sure you do spend a little bit of time being grateful for whatever situation you're in, even if you're 0-10, and I've been there, or 10-0, the goal is to influence kids, and help them kind of become what they're going to become. So be grateful for the people around you. Strive to get better. That's what we're called to do, but spend a little bit of time during this season trying to be grateful. So anyway, Daniel, that's your quote of the week, and we'll get into what people came to listen to today.
I love it. Let's real quick. Can we have to knock out our ad sponsors here? We were told, I went to Tampa and saw Mark Bridges and the A Sports team, and Mark said, Daniel, we've got to change the way we do ads because people are skipping them. They're just skipping the ads and not listening. He said, I've heard 6 coaches tell me we don't even listen to those ads. Well, guys, we have to have sponsors or we couldn't do this. And so please do listen to the ads and go check those people out. But primary sponsor for years now, for basically the entire length of the podcast, has been A Sports. If you were in the need of a video board, if you need of a better environment for your fans, I don't care if it's an indoor arena, if it's outside, it's football, lacrosse, if you need to be instant replay for your band performances, whatever it is, A Sports can hook you up with some type of board, some type of replay thing. But the better part of it is the fundraising, right? It is the ad revenue that comes along with the board. It pays for the board, and then it just lines your pockets with money. So jump over to asports.com, check them out. Email mark.bridges@asports.com. You might just email him anyway and say, hey, I don't skip the ads, right? Daniel talked about us. All right, so you got to keep us in our sponsorship with them. And then don't forget to jump over to Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Talk with Doug. The promo code 20OFFcoaching101, I believe, is still good. And as long as you didn't use them this year, it'll be good for next season to get you 1 full year at 20% off. It gives you all the in-game analytics you're going to need. You're inputting data in your own terminology. And then when you wake up on Saturday morning or whatever after your game day, your film is already tagged. So you get to save that time. Winning Edge Performance Analytics. All right, let's jump in here. So, Coach, we were talking playing time before, and you're a Hall of Fame a tight end there for the Langston Lions. I myself was just a walk-on, never will be a Hall of Famer. Coach Simpson was talking to us about his journey across multiple states. So that's kind of where we want to start, is in that playing time. We often talk about the game needs to be fast and simple, and you can't have too much stuff going on for these high school kids, right? I think you said it before we did. People try to bring in this high-level football. We see it. The other podcast we've talked a lot of times with D1 athletes that don't make the NFL and never get humbled. They struggle sometimes to come back to us mere mortals and talk football or coach football. They can do it at an elite level, but sometimes they can't convert that over. What are some things that coaches did for you as a player, regardless of their level, that kind of kept the game moving quickly for you, kept you from getting bogged down, or kept it simple?
I think the old adage, man, I think it goes back to like coaches are teachers, right? And if there's an art to it and there's a science to it, and if you don't really understand either, or you just think that you can go out and talk to people and they're going to be able to retain that information, I think you're crazy, right? I think that there needs to be a base to how you do it. And that goes to our high school coach, right? I felt like I look back and we had a lot of stuff, right? Our playbook was pretty large, but he gave us time. And we started in April or May, and he'd give us again, I was telling you guys earlier, the old Gus Malzahn system where it was 1 through 9, and those were the play types. So let's say 1 was trap, 2 was power, 3 was ISO, 4 was whatever you want to call it, 5 is counter, 6 is GH counter, however you want to get through that. But the first number dictated what the play was. The second number dictated what who's getting the ball, right? So 1 and 2 is a quarterback, 3 and 4 is a running back, 5 and 6 is a slot, 7 and 8 somebody else, and 9 and 0 is the outside receiver, right? Which I know we're probably not going to hand him the ball off much, but he wanted that system to be built to where everybody knew what the play was and who could potentially be getting the ball. So I would say that they make sure you put it in buckets because that definitely helped me. And then our pass game, like, and this is going to sound so simple, and nobody ever figured it out, but our code word was purple. So if I got up behind the quarter or behind the center, I played quarterback in high school, and it was purple 99. Like, man, we're running pass and it's 4 verts. And then, I mean, I played 3A football. Like, we didn't have 17 different protections. Like, it was like, hey, man, we're sliding left or we're sliding right. Like, the backside guy's locked. If you got a 3 and a 5, you guys are locked. Front side slide and half slide. And, I mean, running back, you're away from the slide. Like, and as I've gotten older, like, there's a million ways to protect. But it's like, I mean, if you have answers with a few protections, why am I going to do all this other stuff, right? Now, you can fix it when the defense starts to adjust, right? But there's no reason to overload these kids, in my opinion, and force them to have to learn all this stuff when you might only run it once or twice through a whole season. So that, and then when I got to Langston, our offensive coordinator was a JUCO guy. And he's like, look, man, like, the JUCO kids weren't the most academic superstars, right? So he called his plays from left to right. Like, so he would call 4-14 and call Y flat. So it's literally a 4 route on all you have to do is learn the route tree. 4 is a curl, the 1's a flat, the other 4 is the outside curl, and then he's telling the Y where to go. And he called the entire offense that way. Like 999, Y go. 999, Y stick. 313, Y out. Like, I mean, and there was so much, like, so it made it easy for us, right? And I think that all of my teammates would agree. We didn't have a lot of mental busts. Like, when there were games that we lost, it was because we got outplayed. Like, they were better than us. You know what I mean? So I think that helped me, at least as a player. And that's something that stuck with me as a coach. Like the old Bruce Lee quote, I don't fear a man who practices 10,000 kicks. I fear a man who practices 10,000 or one kick 10,000 times. Like, I think that's real. And that's the way that we drill right now. That's the way that we install. We've had turnover on the offensive side of the ball at Brophy, right? These last few years, every year it's almost been a new staff, right? Guys go off. They want to go become coordinators. They want to go do their own thing, which I agree with. I understand it. And I was that young guy at one point. But they'll come in and like, hey, well, what are we doing in the spring? It's like, hey, man, well, in the spring, like, we got 3 weeks. We have 15 practices or 12 practices or something like that. So, I mean, we need to make sure that these kids know what they're doing. But in a few weeks, we have basically a 7-on-7 season coming. Like, so we need to be able to, like, go out here and be productive. So I'm not putting 50 plays in. Like, I'll put 10 plays in. And we're going to figure out how to run these 10 plays against every coverage that we'll see so that we can have some success this summer. Because nobody wants to go out and lose. I don't care if it's football or sevens. And by no means, excuse me, am I a 7-on-7 warrior? Like, man, bring some pads out and let's go play. Like, and that's one thing. And I may be able to get into this on a different episode, but in Oklahoma, you get padded practices in the spring. In Arizona, you don't. Like, you guys get to go to team camp with pads on here in Oklahoma, and we don't. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot, and I had a lot of knowledge up here. So if I start to ramble, please bring me back.
No, you're okay, man.
But yeah, I would say that, like, all in all, man, like, I think that if you want it to be simple, and things that help me is like repetition, right? Knowing what I'm doing, make rules for them. So it's like, hey, if this, then that, or if that, then this, and keep it simple.
Kenny's going to be excited to hear you throw an if then in there. He is the if then king.
No, I liked hearing the different ways that, you know, different guys call the same stuff. And I've studied Malzahn, so I knew, you know, a little bit of that stuff too. And it's funny how some guys are number based. Obviously, the 2 OCs that Coach worked with are numbers based. And then when I started studying, like Noel Mazzoni, word based. Everything was word based, and everything kind of had a base concept of what they were doing. And so it's curious, you know, Malzahn is similar to me as far as, I wish we were similar in every way, but similar in this way, where his run game is kind of like his backbone of what he does, and he's adjusting his passing game often. He's not known for having a sophisticated passing game. So neither am I. Like when you look at both of us, it's probably not who you go to for just a great passing game. So I've had to study other people for that and kind of figure that out. So it's interesting to hear, a guy doing numbered on the route tree. I've heard that before. A lot of guys will do that too. You ought to feel honored that you were the only guy that had a code, for whatever, why this.
Yeah.
To me, if I'm quarterback, I'm throwing the ball to the Y because he ain't tagging him to run around if we're not throwing him the ball. So anyway, I think that kind of stuff is cool and interesting to see. And a lot of guys who are listening to this are probably reevaluating how they do stuff.
Yep.
I think the point I think coach is kind of bringing home is you can, however you want to name it, as long as it's simple and it makes sense and you can build upon it. Because like Coach said, he's going to put in 10 plays. So he's not going to go into the season with only 10 plays. He's going to go into it with more. But here's the way I think you create more.
Right.
You take the 10 concepts you already have and you make a subtle tweak off of it. Or you 100%. Move the quarterback's eyes with a read, or you formation to it, or you shift to it. You can't do that if you don't have the verbiage to do that. And so I think that's, guys that are listening to the podcast, that's what I'd challenge you to think about is, how are you going to build on what you have? Like if you do decide to go verbal, we do that. Like we're verbal with how we call things. Do we have a word that will allow me to tweak this later? A word that'll adjust my route? If I'm number based, you kind of have an infinite possibility of things, but you need to make sure that your quarterback knows where to look. And those are the things I think are where you've got to kind of balance what you're doing. And then I think it's important too that we like to teach things concept based for our whole team to learn them. The reason we got away from numbers, and I'm not saying right or wrong, was because I didn't like my receivers not knowing the full concept of what we're trying to accomplish. Like they were running a outside release go, but they didn't know if they were the primary guy or the not primary guy or whatever it was. The ball might come to them, or they're just doing a runoff. And so, that's why we got away from it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think it is important that your kids kind of know, what you're trying to accomplish on this play. Let's be honest. Like if I've got a guy who's running a runoff route, I don't really want him going 100% because I might need him to turn around the next play and I'm throwing him the ball. But if I'm throwing him the go ball, or he might catch the go ball, I do expect him to go 100%. So I think that stuff's kind of important to go through. I didn't want to jump all over Coach's answer. I thought it was great though. And I think it's cool that you get to listen to two different coaches with two different things. I know we're going to get into how you built your own. I played for 3 different coaches in high school. We ran in Arizona. Actually, I get to play there. We were under center, veer. And then in Greenwood, Arkansas, we were one of the first teams to run 2x2 spread. And then in Florida, it was more pro style. So it was really cool, I think, to grow up in that world. It made you learn. And it also made you learn. You did a good job pointing out coaches that did a good job. And I had several of those too. I also had some coaches that weren't very good. And I think you can learn lessons in that world too, if I ever coach and I knew I kind of wanted to, I don't mark that down. I don't want to do that, whether it's scheme or how we treated a kid or whatever it was. So I do think a lot of our background, I think it was this episode's kind of about, I do think our background can shape us, and how we're going to become a coach.
100%. I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, listen, man, in life, you're going to learn a lot of what to do. But you need to be able to recognize and learn what not to do as well. Like you can't, everything's not the right thing. You know what I mean? So let's make sure we don't take everything as gold and say that. Now, to your point, Coach Simpson, we're verbal, right? I got away from the numbers. I was like, man, it's not too much to teach. And I actually think the kids can learn it, but neurodivergency in the world we live in today is real, right? And I don't want a kid to think 65 when I said 56, because now I got 10 guys going one way and one guy going the wrong way, and that doesn't work. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I've taken verbal. Those guys that I coach for again, or coach that I played for. One of them was a Pitt State guy. That was my high school coach. He played at Pitt State back in the 90s when they won the D2 national championship. And then my college offensive coordinator was a quarterback from Mississippi State that finished at Southern Illinois, but he came up through like the Bruce Arians and Steve Spurrier and those guys. So that was the tree he came off of. So, I mean, looking at it, you can understand why their philosophies were a little different, right? It was the way that they learned the game. So yeah, and they were both quarterbacks. So that was a blessing, right? At least for a guy like me who was a skill player. Nothing wrong. I love offensive linemen that are head coaches. I love guys that are head coaches. I respect it. I love it. But there's something about having that ball in your hand, man, and being able to make a play. You know what I mean? So kudos and shout out to all of those guys. But hey, skill guys that are doing it, man. I love it.
We won't go too far down that rivalry because that's where that get heated. I'm a skinny guy, but I definitely lie with the O lineman a lot more, man. I think that's where the commitment is. But you talked about some the neurodivergence and like the idea that now that kids are struggling to learn ball at the same way we did, right? You can't. I've always hated colors and numbers. I've always thought they just kind of transpose and like you said, I called 65, he runs 56. I call blue and he's running green or whatever. You know, I've never liked using colors and numbers for anything in football, but I grew up in that system and I wasn't very good at it. So when I came out to be a coach, then I was like, hey, let's use, you know, we can always word associate things, right? It doesn't matter if it's, I call my pass game with dynamic duos. Batman and Robin are the same play left and right versus calling that, you know, 92 or, you know, whatever. Hey, we're going to run green, white, out or you know whatever it just to me it was easier to word associate and I feel like the kids got it as well. I think it's important though as a coach, regardless of what you have around you, is to meet your kids where they are, right? I think about my high school days. I'm talking about college. I was just a tackling dummy, but in high school, right, Kenny Ridley was my defensive coordinator. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what any of the other 10 guys were doing. I was just a number, you know, I filled a jersey basically, but he got 2 years of football out of me by being able to meet me where I was and teach me how to play outside linebacker. And it was blitz, cover 3, tackle the guy with the football. I mean, it was pretty stinking simple. And so I think being able to meet your kids where they are and making that fit your system is super important. I jumped in as an OC a couple of years ago and, you know, me and the head coach didn't see eye to eye because I wanted to call Batman and everybody knew what that was, right? I tell the O-line which way they're going to protect. The receivers and the quarterback loved it. They were like, shoot, yeah, man, one word tells everybody what to do. But that head coach came out of a tree that you tell each player what to do, right? Your offensive pass call has to be 6 words because it's got to be the protection and 5 wide receivers of routes.
Right.
And we just didn't jive, right? We didn't see eye to eye. That's just 2 different worlds that had to clash there. I'm sure the answer is somewhere in the middle, right? But you know, it's the most important thing is regardless what you're comfortable with, meeting your kids where they're at so they can go out and be successful, which I think is big time.
I think it's like you said, Daniel, I think it's in the middle of that. I mean, Coach talked about his pass pro back in the day. I think you kind of find who you are and what you live with. Like for us, we live in the run game, so we got a lot of tags off of how we run buck. Like we got different words because that's what we're going to do, who we're going to be. If you're going to throw the ball a bunch, like if you're coming out of Steve Spurrier's, I'm sure that dude was going to throw the ball. That's what they were going to do. So you better have layers and you spend more time in that. But my bet is, I'm just guessing, Coach, I didn't play for your guy. If he's calling pass plays like that, you probably had like 3 runs, like inside zone, outside zone, and power. That's kind of where a lot of those dudes come from. Where I think we get in trouble as coaches at times is that we try to make everything super complex, even if it's a smaller part of our offense. Like for us, we're going to live with buck. We're going to live with our RPOs. So we got a lot of words in that world, a lot of words, a lot of tags. Our passing game is pretty simple. You know, next year we're going to throw the ball more because I've got a guy returning, 3-year starter quarterback. So next year we may get a little more involved in the passing game. But I think that the overall point, I hope, is that your offense has to have a base and a concept and things you can build off of each year. But when you build off of one thing, you got to kind of think of it as like a balance scale. If you put a whole lot of weight over here, then you got to take some weight off over on this side so that it works. If you put too much on everything, that's when it becomes a problem. So like your coach wasn't wrong. If you want to run 5 words to pass the ball, have at it. But then your run game better be really, really simple. You can't do both. Like
Right.
Both of them can't be real wordy, or you're going to struggle, especially at the high school level.
No, 100%. And I think I've had the luxury, I think is the right word, to have to do that, right? Because at first, when you think about it, it's like, man, it's going to be challenging. But actually, it's challenging, but it helps you as a coach. So a few years ago, we lined up in 12 personnel, and we call it scissors formation, but it's tight end wing into the boundary, and we were running wide zone. Like, we're not trying to run stretch. We're not trying to run inside. We're trying to put our running back on a path to the C gap, right? And he can bend it, bang it, or bucket, right? So he's going to stick his foot in the ground. He can go all the way back to the A gap. He can get vertical in the C gap. He can bounce it outside. But that's what we were good at, right? And our quarterback was a good player. But those guys up front, those two tight ends we had, I mean, you were in an old school bar fight every night. Our defense was pretty good. We weren't explosive out on the edge. So it was like, hey, man, how do we keep ourselves in football games and play complementary football to win games? So we did that. And then the next year, we kind of opened it up a little bit, a little more zone read. I kind of like to call it a power raid offense. Like, we're going to line up and we're going to hit you in the face, but we'll drop back and throw some mesh. We'll take some of the West Coast stuff and run some wide cross. We'll spread them out and, you know what I mean, push vertical. So all of that stuff was simple. And I think you're 100% correct, Coach Simpson. Like, I didn't want to make any of it difficult. Like, I want to line up and be able to say, hey, man, where are we strong and where are they weak? Can I motion and get a +1 advantage on the play side of the football? Can I get a +1 man advantage post snap by wrapping my tight end around or whatever that might look like? But again, keeping it simple for the kids. Like, for us, and just an example, inside zone is a 5-man run, like, point blank period. I can line up with 6 guys on the line of scrimmage with an inline tight end or a nub tight end. And if I call inside zone, based on our rules, with it only being a 5-man, our tight end knows where he's supposed to arc, whether it's across the ball or split away from the ball. And our quarterback knows where his eyes are supposed to be. So I can line up any formation we want. And as long as they know those rules, we can call inside zone and everybody's going to get to where they need to be. So it's actually been fun, right? I look back at some of the stuff we did when I was playing, and it's like, man, well, why didn't we do it this way? Like, because this seems so much easier. But they didn't know. So it's like, hey, we got through it. We figured it out. But it was actually funny a couple years ago after one of the playoff games, my offensive coordinator from college called me and was like, hey, man, I got some questions. Like, I'm watching you guys and you're doing this. And then I'm thinking, so am I coaching you now? Like, you thought I didn't know ball.
There we go.
Well, and here's the deal. You coach long enough, Coach, you start watching your old film and go, why wasn't I doing it that? Like, that's where he's coming from. And I watch us now, like, our RPO game from, I'd say, 2016 to now. My goodness gracious, I think we were almost doing it wrong back then. Like, we had the right idea, but we were so limited. And now, like you said, you start going, okay, kids can learn these concepts, and now I can get into unlimited formations. And so we can run almost unlimited versions of RPO game because the kids know who it is, and we just tag who does it. And so that's football. That's how football evolves. So I don't want to hijack our show, Daniel. I know we wanted to kind of go into talk about.
Okay, that's part of it, and we're going to talk here for a minute about why do some former players work super well as coaches and how come some struggle, and I want to get into that. But first, we have to give some grace a little bit to our old coaches because they didn't have the internet, right? Like, if you think back to when I was playing high school ball in the early 2000s, it was Glazier clinics and whatever clinics were going on, right? But they were all going and seeing the same stuff regionally. And then you go back to your school and everybody inputs the same stuff, right? Or you're in one of those, I call them archaic offenses, but one of the super traditional wing tees or flex bones or whatever. And then those guys, I felt like they had their decoder ring, so they weren't going to add anything. How dare you add something to this? Like, this offense is what it is. You just run what it is. So, they were kind of limited. They kind of were their hands were tied behind their back to just the
game has evolved. I mean, the game has had to evolve. I mean, it's just had to evolve because the rule changes and everything else is going on there. And, back when I'm older than both of you, back when I played and we were 2-by-2 spread, we saw cover 3. Like, that's all we saw. Like, that's what everybody was running. So you're going to run go out or go curl or out curl or bubble slant. That's all you needed. Or forwards, right? And the game, but the games had to evolve because defenses have kind of evolved along with it. The internet has been a big deal. I do think that's really, really helped. I also think you have a lot of coaches too that come from different backgrounds. I know that's where we're going to go to the next question, but like my background, I coached basketball for a long time. I think basketball coach, that's why I wrote that second book I ever wrote, was coaching football like a basketball coach. The idea being they teach conceptually, like they have a play, a set, but off of that set, you have to read the defense. And then that came along in football where you have option routes or where you have RPO game where the ball might go 3 different places. The RPO, you may define grass. You see all this stuff. I think that's kind of the evolution, but that comes from different guys' backgrounds, where you came from as a coach. Coach played for 2 or 3 guys that threw the ball a bunch. I'm just going to guess, living in Phoenix, former quarterback, without even looking up, Coach, they probably sling the ball a little bit because that's, like you said, not if they don't have the personnel, but
right.
if he could pick, he probably would because that's his background. I grew up, guess what kind of quarterback I was? An option quarterback. So, we live in the RPO world because I played a lot of basketball, and I think that's kind of your background drives so much of what you do. We're going to adjust to our kids because, like we just said, the opening of the show, I don't care if I got to go wishbone to win a game. That's what I'm going to do to win a game, whatever it takes to win. But if I could pick, my background is going to play a huge role in that.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about the backgrounds a little bit here. How come, and Kenny, we'll start with you on this one. Why do we think that some former players work really well and some just can't figure out the coaching aspect?
I was blessed enough to be good enough to be okay in high school, and at 150 was not going to play college football, and that was pretty obvious early. So I knew that early on. So for me, it's not been an issue. I've got coaches on my staff. One guy never played football. He's been like a 30-year veteran for me. We didn't have football when he was at the school. So he's had to learn along the way. He's a great coach. My special teams coordinator does a great job for us. Then I've got guys that they were dudes. Like they played really high level in college. And now they're on my staff. One guy walked on the University of Arkansas, played 4 years there, and so you bring all these different backgrounds to it. I can't speak for why some work and don't work because I wasn't good enough to have to worry about that. I can speak for what speaks to kids. And I think that's people who are genuine, who care about kids, and who are willing to do whatever it takes to help kids. Like I think those guys do well, whether you had a great background, you were a great player, or you didn't play at all. I think if kids recognize you can help them, not just help them like you're a good person. I think that should be implied. If you're going to be a coach, hopefully you are a good person. I'm talking about, can I help you schematically? Can I help you develop? Can I help you do what I'm called to do in my job? Like our job as football coaches is not just to be good people. Our job is to help our kids develop and be the best they can be in that sport. That's what we're called to do. My thought would be guys that tend to not succeed in our world, that's where they struggle, whether they're good or not good at football back in the day. If you're not good at understanding scheme, understanding help a kid get from point A to point B, you're going to struggle. There's different worlds you can be in that. And that's generally where I see a coach that comes in. Either they're not real good at scheme, but they're great at relationships. You're going to have a place to be. You're not as good at relationships, but you're great at scheme. You're probably going to have a place to be. You're going to have a place to be on our staff. You're not good at either, and you just want to tell old stories about how good you were when you played. I don't have any use for you, and nobody else does either. That's like a sad bar story. And I think that's where I have seen coaches at every level not succeed, is when they come in and it's just assumed people want to follow them because back in the day, fill in the blank.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. We have guys on our staff right now who are X's and O's wizards, but their interpersonal skills need work, right? Or vice versa. We have guys who are rah-rah guys who are the hype man who can get the juice out of a kid, but couldn't drop an overfront against a 3x1 set. Like they just, they can't do it. Which, to your point, Coach, I think all of those guys are invaluable, right? We had a guy who actually he worked with me with the receivers. He played football at a 3A school. It's funny you said Push Ridge used to be Palo Verde. He went to school in Tucson at a school called Palo Verde. They won like the 3A state championship when he was in high school. He walked on at U of A, never got to play. But everybody at the University of Arizona loves him. It was like he was the biggest cheerleader for his teammates. He showed up to practice. He worked hard. He'd stay after and help other teammates. But he knew he wasn't going to play on Sundays. But he did all of that because he loved his teammates and he loved the program and he loved all the things about football. But you need those guys, right? Now he's become that guy on our staff. So now we can focus other places. and we don't have to be the guy running up and down the sideline trying to give juice to the kids. So I mean, that matters. And I will say, like, also to your point, when we hire people, in my personal opinion, whether it's as a position coach or a coordinator, or you're an administrator and you're hiring a head coach, if they're not a good person, they shouldn't even be in the building. Like, that's the first thing. I can teach you football. If you want to learn, I can teach you football. It's going to take some time, but I can teach you. But if you're not a good person, why are we even talking, right? That should be a prerequisite to it all. And I, like, my wife, sometimes she'll, like, before, why do you do this? Like, my purpose is to build young men. Like, and it just so happens my platform is football. Like, it's what it is. It's who I am. But I would say that, like, a lot of the coach's point, like, people at this point, at least now, in the world that we live in, like, instant gratification is real, right? And that goes to adults too. It's not just kids, right? And they want to show up. Some coaches show up and they're like, "Oh man, you can't do it like I did. I'm done with you." Nah, we can't do that. Like, our job is to develop these kids. It's like, just like you said, Dan, like, meet them where they are and take them where they can go, right? And is your floor really low and your ceiling really low? Or do you have a very low floor and a very high ceiling? I was a guy with a very low floor. I had a bunch of personal issues at home and family and all of that, but I thought I had a very high ceiling. And if I could get with the right person who would help me and put me in the right circles, like, I'd be able to excel at a very high level. And I felt like I have, like, and those are kudos to my coaches, right? Making sure that I showed up, making sure I knew what I was doing, making sure. And then, I mean, at some point it came back to me, but we had a coach who in high school was and we were in high school. This dude had finished at Oklahoma State. We would sprint like 60 yards and he would beat us in a back pedal. Like, this is how fast this guy could run. Like, he back pedal and we'd sprint and he beat us. But if I had to list him on the coaches of like 1 through 25, he's probably like number 22, right? You got all this physical ability, but he wasn't able to, like, transfer that to us to where and again, he can't make us faster, but you played at Oklahoma State at a high level, man. You were a strong safety. Like, we should have the best strong safeties in the state of Oklahoma right now, right? And again, I can't blame him. Like, but looking back at it, those are the situations. And then, I mean, it was kind of what we had talked about before. You get these high level guys who come in and they want to talk about, man, we need to line up in a attached 2x2 set and run a Yankee concept. And you're talking to high school kids, like, Yankee. Like, we talking baseball? Like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? So I think it's explaining and breaking down to where, like, when you're talking to some of these kids, sometimes we lose the fact of, like, we need to be able to teach this to a third grader. Like, because to them, this is third grade. Like, they don't know football, right? And I like to go back to think about the times where I learned coverage on Madden and college football. Like, that's where it's like, oh, this is cover 2 where he goes there and he goes there and they do this. And I spent time learning myself, but it makes it tough where you get a guy in who's not a good person, or he might be a good person, but he doesn't want to develop. And then he wants everything give it to him. And then if the kids aren't doing what he's asking or doing what he's telling them to do exactly, like, he loses it. Like, no, man, we're going to send you back to wherever you came from and let you go play for that coach or coach for that guy, because, I mean, we're not going to win games doing that, man. And it's
So I'm sorry, Coach. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it makes that kid's football experience trash. And if that happens, like, we've just lost a football guy for life. Like, and I want as many as I can have.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 things, and I'll pass it over back to you, Daniel. But, one, I do want to point this out. Like, I do think if you were a good player back in the day, Coach was a good player back in the day. There are guys now that have played in the NFL that are coaching high school football. There are guys that have played high college level coaching high school football. You are born on at least first or second base. Like, you're ahead of me because you have something you can offer kids that I cannot offer them. Like, you have real experience of maybe where their dreams and their goals are. So I do think there's a built-in advantage. I don't want to dismiss that or come across as though I'm dismissing that. I think, if you played at a high level or have experienced a high level, even as a coach, you have advantages you can bring to the table. Those are negated if you can't relate to people and you can't relate to who you're coaching. I do want to hit that. And then Coach brought up something too. I want to mention the low floor, high ceiling. We had Price Holmes on, I think, last week, Daniel, and one of his quotes he's on my staff that I've kind of stolen from him is, our goal as coaches is to get every kid to bump their head on the ceiling. Like that's our goal. Coach's ceiling was probably a lot higher than your ceiling, Daniel, and way higher than my ceiling. But the coaches I respect the most were able to get me to bump my head on to reach my peak.
Yep.
Those are the guys. Some were nerdy dudes. Some dudes were energetic guys. Some guys could motivate me in different ways. They all had different ways they reached me. But those are the coaches. If you put on, like you said, you have your list of coaches, that's coach 1, coach 2, coach 3. The coaches who maybe degraded me or didn't help me achieve what I wanted to achieve, or, God forbid, did something to hurt me. Those are the ones down there at the bottom. And I think that's how kids look at you. So you've got to evaluate yourself as a coach. We all have different skills.
100%.
What are we doing that's contributing to helping our kids reach their peak, their ceiling?
Yeah, that's true.
I know, Coach. Coach Cotton, you were talking about guys that had the coach that could outrun you running backwards, right? Like I think about guys like that often in this realm of guys that physically, they usually win kids over too with that stuff, right? So they end up becoming really, because like I've been there. I went out and I always ran the sprints with the kids, like for conditioning. I'd go do it for a couple. One, I'm in the military and I got to keep myself up a little bit. But two, it's a lot harder for the head coach to blow for that like 15th gasser when his staff is out there running the ball or running too, right? So got to save the kids a little bit, put a shield up.
Yeah.
So some of that, the physical, just go out and do the, embrace the suck with them. The kids enjoy that, and you'll get some buy-in that way. But I think those guys that played at the high level, they see more of the field than I ever will, right? Because I can do the science part, the X's and O's, to get on the chalkboard, get on the whiteboard. How does this beat that, or why is this an advantage for that? What I may not be able to tell you is like, hey, every time that receiver split this amount versus this amount, this is the route he's probably coming with, because this is pretty common, because I haven't lined up across from that, for 8 years extra after I was an idiotic high school football player, right? So Dominic Franks is an acquaintance of mine over at University of Tulsa. And when I go sit in that office, he makes me so much smarter, because he just talks about all this very common stuff that I don't see as just like a 6th or 7th year coach, because I just haven't lived all that yet, right? He's been doing it.
Yeah.
But there's guys out there, that's all they get to lean on. And this high school game is so much about fundamentals. It's so much about just getting 11 guys to read a key, take certain steps, align in the right spot, and then do your job. And it gets super simple, right? And so if you can't coach that portion, if you can't coach, how much percent of their body weight do you want on their hand as an O lineman, and not tipping their hat to what the play is going to be, or whatever. If you can't teach those fundamentals, it don't matter how much of that advanced stuff you aren't going to be successful, right?
No.
Dom is in a world of his own, because he can do both. He's an amazing coach. I've loved watching him work, but there's guys out there that can't do that. You talked about it. The kid can sprint backwards 60 yards faster than I can go frontwards, but can he come out and teach me what my key reads are for an inside linebacker, or for a safety, or for whoever?
Or can he teach me to open up my hips and turn and run? You know what I mean? Like, that stuff came natural to him. So it's like, oh, just throw your elbow. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
Like, nobody becomes distorted. You know what I mean?
I trip on my own shoelaces, coach.
There's some truth to it, right? But
Yeah.
I think there's more to it than just, hey, just throw your elbow. So, but yeah, man, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I never in a million years thinking, coming from Kellyville, Oklahoma, playing 3A football out in the middle of nowhere, would I be sitting in a room with the guys that I've had the chance to sit in the room with, right? I'm going to say this, and I mean it. Like, if you have the time, and you don't right now, go follow Kurt Warner on Twitter. And if you can, go get his QB confidential stuff. I'm telling you, it's high-level football that he breaks down. Kurt's a great guy. He'll answer your questions. Like, and this isn't
trying to get Kurt on the podcast, Coach. So if you know him,
help
us
him
out a little bit.
Oh, I'd absolutely. And I'm sure
we had some email traffic that it fell apart in like the 24th hour. So we just never quite got him in.
Like, because Kurt's always down to do that. You know what I mean? And I'd be happy to hit him up and let him know that you guys are interested in trying to get him on. Because again, he loves ball and he wants to teach, and he's a great coach. But Kurt has this like football savviness that not everybody has, right? And his memory is like an elephant. So it's like, hey, man, 3 drives ago on 2nd and 6, this is what they did. This is what we need to do to attack it. And it's like, bro, I don't even remember what happened on 1st and 10. Like, this thing's moving so fast. Or he'd be on the headset and he's like, hey, man, that Mike linebacker keeps dropping this way. We need to run this. And you run it, and it's like, how did you see that? To your point, Dan, it's like, how? So you just sit down, you turn the tape on, and it's like, oh, well, I've seen him do this, and this is what I'm watching. I can't see 11 people at one time, but you can. Like, and it's because of the level that you played at. Like, so yeah, if you could do that, that'd be awesome. Like, and I have imposter syndrome, man. I just had the ability to coach next to Donovan McNabb this year. His son played for us. He coached our quarterbacks, right? Sitting in a meeting room with him. It's like Andy Reid Jr. It's like, this is wild, man. You know what I mean? But again, and both of those guys, like they have this innate ability to get kids to do what they're supposed to, right? And Coach Simpson, you said it, like those guys have a little more to offer than I do. Like they played in the NFL. Kurt's a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt in my mind at some point Donovan will be a Hall of Famer, right? But they know ball. And then they both came from two completely different systems. Like you got the Andy Reid tree and then you got the Mike Martz tree. And they're completely different, but they figured out how to score points. And they do it in a classical way. Like it's like, this is football as I remember. You know what I mean? You line up in two backs. You use the fullback. But, I mean, that, again, another conversation for another day. If you got any fullbacks that move to Arizona, you can send them out there. See if we can get them in the school. We'll be happy to use them. Because
we turn those into wing backs out here, Coach, in Arkansas. a lot of two tight end stuff. So
yeah, all right. But yeah, and then like especially for me, man, imposter syndrome is real because you're sitting there and you're like, bro, I'm not supposed to be in this room with these guys. Like I haven't done what they've done. But then you start to look at it and you start to talk and you're like, man, I know exactly what they do. They're just 6'3" and ran like the wind or had pinpoint accuracy like he's shooting a laser. You know what I mean? Like so. We all have our gifts, and I'd like to think that those guys would say, man, Coach Cotton can stand and coach with the best of them. You know what I mean? I've never asked, and maybe one day it'll come out on the podcast, or if we get Kurt in here for you guys, maybe you guys can ask him, hey, man, is that Tony Cotton guy?
Well, here's the deal. The other deal about that coach, too, is this, and I'm not nearly at anywhere near those guys' level, but when I've played guys who I know have played at a high level, they got a little target on them because I want to show them, hey, I want to prove something. And I'll tell you this, since I've kind of stepped into a more of a public light, our opponents want to beat me because when they do, it's all over their Barstool and Twitter and that kind of stuff. So that's the disadvantage, I think, for guys that maybe did play at a high level is there's I think coaching envy is real. You know, and there is times where people will, because of that alone, that could hurt them.
Yep.
Let's talk about that last point here, guys. And Coach, it's funny you brought up getting to coach next to some legends like that because this is that question. How are you taking that super high level of football and getting it down to a high school level? So you're talking about being in the room with Kurt Warner. How's he take? Look, man, I was picking apart the best defenses in the world, and now I'm teaching a high school kid how to do that. But it's not the same, right? Or Donovan McNabb, hey, here's what I was doing to read with my skill set at this level against the best dudes to ever do it. You just got to go out and beat this other 3A team, but you only have your skill set. So how does that work? How does that translate?
Man, it's tough, and there's a lot of headbutting, and I don't think we should do this. And I think we should do it that way. Like, but as you guys know, it's easy to sit and have opinions. Like making the decision is the hard part, right? So I'd like to think that I worked well with both of them, right? When Kurt was with us, I was the receivers coach. We had another guy that was the offensive coordinator, and then Kurt was kind of the co-coordinator, quarterbacks coach, right? So with Kurt, it was one of those things where Kurt wants to run the same plays, which I agree with, but he wants to run out of the 50 different formations, and we'll install it week by week. Where it became an issue there was like, hey, man, we don't have the time, right? Like the time is an issue. Like, how are we going to teach these kids all of these? And 50's a lot, but you know what I mean? We'd add 10 formations every week. It's like, how do we teach these kids all of this and make sure that in a crucial situation on Friday night, they remember it? So I took the thought of like, okay, I'm going to peel this back. And the reason being is I look at the defense and I say, there's only so many things you can do to me when I line up in a open 3x1 set. Right? There's only so many things you can do. Okay, so now how do I give myself 5 answers to that? Because again, you only have a few hours during the week. Now, some of these coaches figure out a way to work around it. They bring the kids early, they lift weights, they have meetings, and then they go to school and they have meetings and they go to practice. So now they get an extra hour or two a week, right? But I would say the biggest part is like what I've done is I've peeled back all of that stuff and said, okay, what's the base? And by week 13, when we're in the semifinals, you're going to have the entire offense. The playbook's going to be this thick. But in week 1, it's this. Like, because I don't need to give you all of the information. I'm going to teach you this week by week based on what the opponent's doing. And the one thing that the kids get frustrated with me is like, Coach, we've been practicing this play for 3 weeks. Why haven't we run it yet? It's like the opportunity hasn't presented itself, man. Like, this is a play that we need to run on the plus side of the 50 with second and short. Like, we can't run this on second and long. Like, we're going to put ourselves in a bad position. Like, so I would say that the most of it is just peeling back the layers of what they have and what they're trying to do, and then make it fit into the box that you want it to look like so that you can deliver it to the kids. Because, again, at the beginning I mentioned, like, it's about being a teacher, man. And if I walked into class and tried to teach you 2 trigonometry, but you didn't have any sense of what geometry was or what algebra 1 was, like, it's going to go over your head. And then it's going to get worse is because you're going to get frustrated. You're not going to want to deal with it. And now we've completely lost you. And once that happens, things go downhill real fast. So
Dang, I had myself muted. I said the analogy there is perfect. That's how defense was in football was taught to me too, right? Like, hey, we're going to start in elementary. You're going to learn this very simple thing. I can't go teach you high school stuff yet or college stuff yet because you ain't going to know it, right? If you can't count to 10, I can't go out and teach you how to multiply. It just ain't gonna work. So you got to start with that fundamental, that base stuff. And I think something we lose the fact of is the guys a lot of the times, and some programs are built to maintain over the summer and over the break and when football season's not in. But a lot of them kids, they don't remember what you taught them last year, right? They're gonna show up and it's like having a freshman all over again. He's been in the system 3 years. So maybe that's a part I'm struggling with coaching. Maybe we got to get better at that. But I think you still have to coach that lowest level every single year. Start everybody over. Don't assume anything, right?
Not at all. Not at all. And it's, I mean, we have, and again, man, I've had the opportunity and the luxury to coach some very good football players, like being at the school that I'm at right now. I think after our 7th year, I think there's 84 kids that we've sent off to school, and not all Division I, right? From D3 to D1, NAIA, D2, all encompassing. But with that, it's the kids are going to make. I've never seen a bad coach make good players, but I've seen good players make a bad coach good, right? Like we lose games, they win games. So I've had the opportunity to coach some of the best. But with that, those are the same kids that they show up in May or in April for spring ball, and they're like, "All right, man, line up, let's run read." And they're like, "Coach, what's read?" It's like, man, you were just an all-state receiver that had 1,500 yards receiving. Like, what do you, and this is the play that we did it with. What do you mean, what's read? Like, but again, they don't, once season's over.
Yep. They got another guy's playbook to learn in basketball and right. And they get into soccer or whatever their other sports are. And
right.
They got other stuff to remember.
I'd be curious to hear too, I think the quarterback spot seems to be the one where quarterback and O-line, that's where you have the biggest fights. That's where we have the biggest fights. And how you're going to teach your O-linemen, and there's 1,000 different techniques. And then quarterback, what I've heard on that, of course, there's different techniques on footwork and all that stuff. But one thing that I've heard from Kurt that I think relates well to high school kids, I'm curious, you work with Donovan McNabb as well, and you as well. The one thing that I'm 100% in sync with Kurt is we always read defenders. Like we've never read space, grass, whatever. I mean, you look out there and kind of see what you want, but all of our plays are based off of your eyes are going to this defender, the flat defender, the deep defender, the overhang, whatever it is. That's kind of where your eye goes and how you read things. And I know studying or watching a little Kurt stuff, he kind of is the same way. Andy Reid, I don't know if he teaches that way. So I'm curious to see, like, when you go to hear these guys talk, I've felt that's the simplest way to teach a quarterback. Like in my mind, that's the easiest way. That's when I played quarterback. When I've coached quarterbacks, it seems to have been the easiest way is I'm reading this defender. If he does X, I'm throwing this. If he does Y, I'm throwing this. Those guys, of course, play at a high enough level where the coverages are a little bit more hidden, so they may have to do more. So how did he take that and bring it down to a high school level?
So, I mean, with So with Kurt, a lot of it is corner on and corner off stuff because that's going to tell you a lot, right? Based on where the corner's playing. And he wasn't a full field read guy. Like he'll tell you, like, I'm going to call a 2 high beater to my left. I'm going to call a 1 high beater to my right. And now quarterback, it's on you to deduce the situation post snap and figure out where they're going and where you need to go with the ball. Now the pre-snap reads will give a lot to that, right? But for the most part, that was, I mean, how we drilled it. Now, Kurt had the luxury to coach his son, EJ, who just won the MVP at the Arizona Bowl or whatever. He plays at Fresno now. So, I mean, he's a good player, right? And he's very intelligent. He's got a high football IQ. So, and that goes to Kurt teaching him a lot. So, with that, Kurt's a read a defender guy, right? Like, who's the defender? I know one of his favorite plays that was a staple for us. We called it wrap, and it's basically a hook by number 2. So Kurt's rules for a hook is 6 yards deep, 1 yard outside the hash, and then wrap is a 14-yard dig. And you're essentially high-lowing the linebacker, the outside linebacker, right? He wants to hang, you're going to throw it right off his ear. If he wants to bail, we're going to throw the hook, right, and take what they give you. But then, and that's a good play, right, especially against some sort of cover 2 or cover 3. But Kurt will want to run under, which is a basic or a dig by number 2, and then like a fin route, a 5-yard in by the outside guy. And he called it a hitch and runaway, but it's essentially you hitch up and you hang for about a 1 count and then sprint inside like toward the hash, right? And he would do that against quarters. And the reason is that he's like, I don't like wrap against quarters because that safety is going to sit on the hash, and when he sees number 2 stop, he's just going to hold. And now my wrap route's going to run right into him. He's like, I would rather run under where I get that safety to bail. And now that linebacker's still going to make the same decision. Am I going to carry up the hash, right, and run with the dig, or am I going to hang? And if he hangs, I'm going to throw the dig route. If he carries, then I'm going to throw the fin route, right? So that was a lot of the things that I learned from Kurt. And like every year, man, I'll reach out to Kurt. Like I said, he's a great person. Kurt has these quarterback camps that he brings out to his house, and he'll bring these kids and he'll invite me. I'll just come watch. Like, and every year I take my notebook and I just go sit out there and I'm just taking notes, like, because there's something he's dropping, some sort of jewel, right? And then Donovan's more on the side of like, we need to learn coverage, right? As a quarterback, as a receiver, we need to see what coverage we're running, because a lot of the stuff that he wanted to do was route adjustments, right? If, let's say we're running, let's say, not shake. We had a play we called shorty, right? It's an inside post. So 2x2, inside post on one side. We got the OTB by the tight end on the other side. And then the outside guys will run comebacks. But if it was cover 2, they run circus routes. So they need to be able to see what was going on with the coverage. Is the corner pressed? Is the safety off the hash? That type of thing. Trying to teach these receivers coverage more than just the corner off, corner on. But with the quarterback, it was, okay, when we run cover 2, I want you to think pre-snap, where are they soft? Like, who's playing the middle hole, the middle linebacker? Okay, so if we get an OTB or we get something sitting in the middle of the field short, we probably need to take that, unless this linebacker does something different. Because if he does something different and he hangs low, we'll just throw it over his head. So Donovan was more the sense of, I'm going to read a defender, but I need to have a pre-snap intuition as to what's going to happen and where's my first read based on cover 4. It didn't matter the play. Like, we're running cover 4, what's the first read? If it's cover 3, where's the first read? Where am I thinking I'm going with this ball before the snap? Which I think Kurt had a little bit of that in him, but the way that he taught the kids was more like, find the corner, where's he at, read the defender. Like, so I think that's the difference in the two of them. Both of them taught a lot of the same stuff, the way that you throw the ball, your footwork. And I would say, working with those two, I heard more of, we need to start under center to understand timing than anyone else ever. Like, they want to start under center. They want everything that we do on day 1 of spring ball to be 3-step and throw on quick game, 5-step, hitch up, throw. Like, and their thought behind it is that you'll never know timing as a quarterback in the shotgun if you don't take a snap from under center. Which, after I started to watch, I'm like, damn, I mean, this makes sense, man. Like, I left the old school stuff and started working with the new school stuff, and it's like, all right, man. Like, it was a point where a couple years ago, our quarterback was the region player of the year. He had like 40 touchdowns. He had over 3,000 yards total offense. But he'd come and be like, Coach, well, what's my footwork? Like, well, technically, let's say we're running wide cross. So we got to go with the out, with the cross, with the backside. We used to run it with the curl. Now we've made it a dig route. But anyway, we run wide cross. He's like, all right, well, what's my footwork? I'm like, Chuck, you got to be able to throw the quick game out the front door if they're going to give it to you. So catch it and slide. And he's like, well, what do I do with this cross route? I'm like, well, you got to catch it and slide. And then you need to essentially take that slide like a drop, and then you can hitch up to your cross. Donovan's like, no. We need to be able to catch this ball and take 3 steps and throw it. It's like, well, there's no way he can throw it out here off a 3-step drop out of shotgun. He's like, well, he should see that pre-snap. And if he's going to throw it, catch and let it go. If not, he needs to take his 3-step drop and work to his cross. It's like, well, that's a lot you're asking of him. But if you can rep it and you have a drill that he can like do this, then I'm fine with it. But and I say all of that to say it came back to me as, I don't care what your footwork looks like, son. Like, I need this ball out on time. And it needs to be the same every time, though. Like, so if you're going to be a catch and slide guy, be a catch and slide guy. If you want to be a 3-step drop guy, you be a 3-step drop guy. But either way, we need to make sure this football's out on time. So, I mean, it's been great. And the kid that we had playing quarterback before is a lacrosse player that's at HOF TE right now. So he was a Division I athlete. He just wasn't a Division I quarterback. And then the guy that we had this last year or the last 2 years, he's going to Air Force to play quarterback. So it was definitely a learning curve there for our Air Force kid. He's a triple option. I mean, he's a triple option guy, and I'm a triple option guy, right? I know Coach Simpson said, hey, if he had it his way, he'd throw the ball over the playground, which I would. I would love to. But there's something about zone read, bubble, zone read, counter read, all of that stuff, power read. You know what I mean? Like, I truly believe in the deepest depths of my soul that if you have to account for my quarterback, you're going to have a long night.
That's right.
Because now we're playing 11 on 11, buddy, not 10 on 11. So, yeah, it just, I mean, I've learned a lot from those guys, though, man. And I would say, like, the biggest takeaway that I have is that you would think that guys like that are big time and they're going to try to treat you bad. Man, they're two of the best and genuine human beings I've ever had the chance to be around. And I think that's the part that I'm most grateful for, Coach Simpson.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, we're going to break it down here, man. We're going to get out with the situation of the week, but it's a little bit different. We usually talk downs and distances and end of the game, halftime, etc. Situation of the week is you're taking over a brand new football program, so there's no history, there's no tradition.
Okay.
They don't have a playbook they used last year.
Yep.
What offense are you installing and why?
Triple option. And it depends on, I'm going to tell you, it depends what kind of kids I have. Am I going to run the triple option from double tight with wings? Am I going to run the triple option from spread 2x2, 3x1? Am I going to look like Tim Tebow and the Florida Gators back in 2007? Or am I going to look like Army or Navy? I don't know, but that would be it. And the reason being is I'm going to give my offense as many options as possible to be able to deal the ball and do what they need to do. But I'm going to also put stress on the defense. So I think that would be, I don't want to say the easiest, but I think that would be the most efficient I'm going to get the most bang for my buck, I would say.
For sure. I love it.
I thought the D2 championship, I don't know if you get to watch it, Coach, but my son just committed. He's going to go play at Harding.
Oh, wow.
Of course, they didn't win, but the old school triple option, if you have kids that'll buy in and believe like Harding's and have that kind of culture, that's a hard offense to stop.
100%.
Then you have the new school option who they got beat by, Ferris State, who ran, I think they snapped it to 3 or 4 different kids and ran their version of triple option. It was a unfortunate game for us to watch because, of course, we were cheering for Harding, but it was a good game to watch as an offensive innovator. 2 very different styles, but if you boil it down, kind of what you're saying, both of them were really running triple option, just different ways.
Agreed. I did watch it. I'm a big fan of both of those programs. It's amazing to me to see how Harding from Arkansas is figuring out a way to be one of the best Division IIs in the country, and I tip my hat to that staff. And then Coach Anisi at Ferris State, he's been doing it a long time, man. Like those are two very good programs. And yeah, the offense that they run is, I'm going to be honest with you, the biggest thing question I have is like, how is Harding still recruiting kids? Like with all the glitz and the glamour and like all of this stuff that you have, they're still finding a way to go find kids, want to line up and just knock your face mask off. And
that's the difference. That's what you mentioned. It's hard to run that at a high school because Harding, like I know the vetting process, my kid just committed there. They don't pick the best athletes, and they will take a great athlete for sure, but they place so much emphasis on that culture that I think they're one of the few colleges that really is, like everyone says that's number one. I think for Harding, it truly has to be because of the style of football you're asking kids to play. Like my son, he's going to play linebacker for him. If it doesn't work out at linebacker, you know where he's going to play? Receiver, because that's the kind of kids they put at receiver, 6'1", 210, willing to block 99% of the time for the one time you catch it. How many kids you know want to sign up for that? Not very many. So that's why I think like the new school option is much easier to install at a high school level. Is easier to create that buy-in. But if you are ever able to create the culture Harding has, I would never want to defend that offense. Never, if people bought into it.
I agree. Sure. Yep. So,
well, Coach, man, we appreciate you coming on today. We're going to close out here with a couple sponsors. Guys, don't forget about Ace Sports, acesports.com. You can email mark.bridges@acesports.com if you want to get. We have people all over the nation now. There's reps all over who can come by and look at your school, help you build your dream. Remember, it doesn't matter. There's no school too small, right? If we need to put up one video board and help you get started, Coach Simpson's put up at 2 different sizes of schools right there in Arkansas. We can build out your dream. Fort Smith, the North and South, they've got, better than D1 basketball arenas. That's all done up by Ace Sports. And then you can go out and just get a single scoreboard or a single video board for your football team. Whatever it is you need, Ace Sports can help you. But getting into the fundraising, getting into the ad revenue, letting the people around you advertise and improve their business while they're also giving you some finances to improve your program. That's the secret to the sauce right there. Also, don't forget about Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Go over to winningedgeperformanceanalytics.com. Doug has got some wonderful product over there. Really going to help you. I recommend getting into it early. Same thing with Ace Sports. Start talking to these guys now. Don't wait till July or August. Now you're trying to learn a system or trying to get somebody in to put up. You're not going to get a video board up if you ask him in August. It's just not going to happen. So get started now so you can kind of knock out all the red tape and get that stuff done. Social media, Coach Cotton. If somebody wants to reach out to you on social media, where can they hit you up at?
Coach Cotton 12 on Twitter or X. I'm sorry. And give me 1 second, man. I know I'm the new school, but yeah, it's Coach. And then my last name's Cotton, Cotton. And the number 12, 12, is my Twitter handle. Hit me up there, man. I'll be happy to chat. Hop on the phone, whatever you guys need, man. Let's keep pushing this game forward, man, and make these kids better.
I love it. Coach Simpson, where are you at on social media, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So at FB Coach Simpson on Twitter, X, whatever we're going to call it. FBCoachSimpson@gmail.com, and the website's FBCoachSimpson.com.
Perfect. I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter /X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. I do have a website that's constantly I don't know what's going on over there. Go check out the website. You can find the podcast there. And then patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. My Patreon is back open. I'd shut it down for the season. We're back to educating coaches across the world, really, talking to people from Germany to right here in Oklahoma. So if you got questions, you need anything, find a level on the Patreon. There's multiple tiers there. If there's not one you like, hit me up. We'll make one for you. And, of course, Coach and I both have YouTubes. Go check out the YouTubes. The podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on Twitter /X. We want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We hope you'll join us next time as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.